So we just finished our playthrough of Proto, storytelling game for Innovators by Let's Make Great. This is Julia and Brian from Let's Make Great. So just first of all, welcome to Hong Kong. These guys are based in Shanghai, where obviously they run Let's Make Great, which is a creative consulting team, and they designed this game. And you can refer to our sort of game review playthrough video somewhere in the description, somewhere about our thoughts on the game. Very fun game. This was obviously funded as a Kickstarter project, so you guys funded in June, and just began shipping to our backers. The first thing is that there's a little personalized notes, which is really cool. Let the games begin. Yes. Press start to begin. That's what we like to say. So thank you guys for bringing us a copy of the game, and it was great to have you guys here. Just wanted to ask you a couple questions, just pick your brains a little bit. So first of all, I think you guys are working on sort of like a consultancy project. What made you guys sort of come up with the game?
We started this project 2 years ago actually, and it was a very organic kind of process. For the business ourselves, we've been around for 5 years as a consultancy, and we've been through a lot of challenges of like, how do we talk about innovation? How do we talk about creativity? It's not something that's really tangible for people, so they don't know what does it mean, right? And so we had workshops, we had material and all different types of reading and stuff like that, but it didn't really fully engage with it. So 2 years ago, we went through this process where we thought, well, we help other people create. Why don't we help ourselves create? Why don't we help treat ourselves as our own client? And so we asked the community of our clients and our friends and our other entrepreneurs in the community to, we put an imaginary box in front of them, no physical box. Said, all right, here it says, let's make great. What's inside? And we sourced their ideas, right? 30, 40 people, and we looked at that and we're like, all right, they kind of expect this from us, right? And then we did that internally. Like, what if we wanted, what should we make? And so we brainstormed many rounds over several months, and eventually it was just like this business model tool, this innovation game, this creativity kit. And so we all right, let's package that all into one, like a pitch deck thing. And so, okay, well, let's start to work with that. And then we started with a really awful prototype 2 years ago.
As game designers do.
It was just hand-ripped paper, handwritten notes, and I brought it out to some friends, and we just saw how it could work from there. And early on, we didn't even have challenges. It was just these 3 types of cards, and people started getting into it right away. So okay, there's potential here. And so we developed it. This is like version 6 or 7 or something like that. We lose count, right? There's so many little changes along the way too, so it's been a process.
So I mean, it feels like it wasn't sort of like you guys had a vision, like, oh, we need to design like a board game or anything. It's sort of like, here's a blank canvas, right? It's more of a collaborative process. What are people sort of thinking about? It's kind of like a startup toolkit in a box that sort of ended up taking the shape of a game, right? So how did you guys sort of navigate through that, right? Because you guys are getting so much like ideas and like so much feedback, and different concepts coming in terms of like the blank box. Like, how did you guys did you guys have like a structure, like a framework where you guys just did like different exercises and just became a game, or what was the?
We started off with just understanding who we were as a brand. Let's Make Great. What do people know us for? It's been 3 years at that time. And it was innovation, inspiration, entrepreneurship, and creativity and passion, right? And so what would fit that? We sourced the ideas, we brainstormed our own ideas, and then we went into prototype mode. After developing the prototype, we went through a lot of feedback rounds, hundreds of tests, and each time we did a test, we wrote down the feedback, not by hand. we wrote down the feedback. We got their scores, and we could see how the game was performing over a series of different prototypes, right? And so after a certain level, we could see, all right, it's becoming a out of 10, like an 8 or 9 or 10, or like this consistently. So this is something that we can then push into the next phase, which was funding. Right?
And actually brought us to Kickstarter. I wanted to ask you about that too. Like how what was sort of like the thought process behind? Okay, now we have a game that we feel is ready for Kickstarter, right? Because I feel like even just like earlier this year when you guys sent us like the prototype deck, right? Like obviously it's various phases of iteration. What was that point where you guys are like, we're ready? And then what was like the whole sort of Kickstarter campaign? Like, how did that look like?
That was a mess. I mean, it was really, really challenging, right? I mean, I think what we pride ourselves on with this version is that it's beautiful. And at that stage, 8 months ago,
it is for sure.
It wasn't there. I mean, it was a lot of graphical work and a lot of the text was too long. So there's all these changes that needed to be made for, like, let's say a consumer audience or a mainstream a more public audience, right? And so, Julia, do you want to talk about that process or
the design process?
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I think we had this idea, right? Like the game is all so open-ended, right? It's all what you make of it. And the cards basically just give you a starting point, and then you go off and really you go where you want. And then it's really hard, right? When you reach a finish point for this, right? It's so open-ended, so it's kind of like, okay, now we just get it out there and we see what do people make out of it, right? And maybe it's good to have this open-endedness.
So that abstractness of the game is reflected in the abstractness of the art.
I was going to say that.
The whole design, exactly.
It's very like geometrical.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
It has a little bit.
It,
for sure. Absolutely,
For the design, basically, we wanted something like every card should be individual, right? And we wanted, but still something quite open, which can just stimulate you, give you some inspiration, so you can see the card and you have to come up with some kind of idea for it. So we just want to support that, right? Stimulate you.
And it's almost like an infographic.
Exactly.
One thing that's really cool is it's not just like an open-ended kind of like there's like text. There's like the flavor text too that goes along. So that sort of helps you brainstorm
move
a
the
little
story
bit.
along.
It gives you more of a structure as opposed to just saying cheap labor. It's like there's like a little bit of a context to it. So one thing that sort of came to mind when I was playing this, right, is obviously there's so much that happens in a startup world, in the business world. Was there like a conscious thought process where you guys were like, okay, out of all these features, these are the like 50 that we're gonna pick? Was this part of the iteration process, or like
there's 30 of each except for the users. There's 20 users, and so originally in earlier versions we had maybe 40 or 50 in each deck. And so we had to cull it down to something that was like we're a lot of duplicates of this kind of idea. Let's just simplify it or get to a more core essence. And so in the Kickstarter version, going back to that part of the story, is we needed to go through and shorten it. We knew the idea was right. We knew the game could make sense and people enjoyed it. So how do we just make it a little more smooth, a little more smooth, a little more smooth?
So like term paper.
Exactly. Oh my God, it really was. And the interesting thing was we had 6, 7, 8 lines of text with no image early on. And so we had to cull all of that into 3 to 4 lines max, add in and leave some space for the images, for the graphics. To illustrate or further illustrate the story, right? And so that all happened after the Kickstarter campaign or during, alongside of it, right? And thankfully, we were funded more than what we expected, right? We actually had 200% of our goal.
Wow!
And so, thank you. And so that's that feeling of a community and a collaboration is. In the startup community, we wanted to bring that into the game too, right? And so I think as you were playing, I'm guessing you felt like there was not really a hardcore attack, even though there are attack rounds. You're really helping each other, and I think that's kind of built into the indie and the startup and the creative community. This is what we live on, right? If you don't have that collaboration, then the ideas don't flow. And so we needed to create that into the game. And so all of these philosophies and these ideas came about slowly over time, and some of it we had to walk a fine line of being like too instructional and not enough, like as Julia was saying, like not enough interpretive, right? And so there was really tough because some people feel like you're not giving me enough rules, you're not giving me enough structure, you're not, and we saw when we added some more rules or we had not enough structure, the scoring of the game went down, and so finally we had to get that balance, right?
just the right.
Just. I mean, it still can be tweaked. We're constantly thinking about the next version and what we can do differently. But we're very, very happy with this.
And actually, speaking of next version, obviously, this is not just a game. Obviously, it's sort of like it's meant to inspire. It's meant to bring about different ideas and stuff like that, right? Do you have a vision in terms of where Proto will go? Like, is there a Proto 2.0? Or what's the next step?
There's a lot that needs to be done in the next phase. I'm still racking my head around it.
Sure.
This question gets asked to us a lot recently because, but it's funny because we just shipped it. Like we had 1 week, 1 month. Right? You're like, come on, let's go. Like, we just put it in your hands, man. Like, give me a week, right? But it's a fair question, and we're thinking about. I think when we first developed it 2 years ago, some of the things weren't relevant, like cryptocurrency. People didn't talk about yet, so we had to build that into one of the feature cards, right? And some of the examples became irrelevant. So I think in terms of keeping the game itself up to date, that's going to require some work. Adding in new features as they come along, that will be essential. Users don't really change, at least not. I think we captured most of them. Same with the boosters. So overall, I think its core is very strong. We have to think about how we can develop it for maybe more specific niches, right? A lot of corporate clients are coming to us and be like, hey, can you modify it in this way for our business and industry? And so that's something we're starting to think about because of the requests, right? But we want to make this
retail-centric version.
Exactly. We want to be more consumer oriented for this version, and then later when we work into industry niches, then we can develop that further. And so this was like the platform, as it were, right? And we'll customize further from here.
Cool. I think just last question, because obviously again this wasn't meant to be just a game. How what are you guys trying to do with this game and beyond this game? Like are you guys building like a whole suite of like workshops around this, like a whole suite of content around this?
Exactly.
Like how does that fit into the Let's Make Great plan?
And so, like I said early on, we were so conceptual, we were so abstract, and we were so like, people didn't know what we were. You're a services, you're a creative company, what are you really, right? And finally we have this physical product. People,
and a game design company.
Now they're like, oh, okay, you're about this. And we're like, yeah, and so it became just an easier talking point for everybody to wrap their heads around. And so we have workshops, we were using it as a consulting tool for our clients to help them map out their businesses, and so there's a lot of afterlife in this game, in the second and third round playing and training materials. There's case studies that are going to come out of it. This is there's a methodology here, a philosophy that we're building into it. So we're getting to that. We're getting to develop that in the next couple of weeks and months.
All right, cool. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you
for stopping by, first of all, and for bringing us this game. Great game again, Proto. So well done to
thank you.
Julia and Brian and the rest of the Let's Make Great team. So we hope to have Proto 2.0 very soon.
Very soon.
All right.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Thanks.